पूर्णब्रह्मा पुरुषोत्तम पुण्यनाम सीताराम पूर्णब्रह्मा रघुकुलाब्धे पूर्णचन्द्रमा रघुकुलाब्धे पूर्णचन्द्रमा रजनीचर समर भीम अगणित गुणगणाधाम अखिल लोक क्षेम धाम अखिल लोक क्षेम धाम पूर्ण ब्रह्मा पुरुषोत्तम पुण्यनाम सीताराम पूर्ण ब्रह्मा इंद्रनील घनश्यामा इंद्रनील घनश्यामा इंदिरामनोधिराम वृन्दारकमुनिललाम वृन्दारकमुनिललाम वन्दनीय भक्त प्रेम वन्दनीय भक्त प्रेम पूर्ण ब्रह्मा पुरुषोत्तम पुण्यनाम सीताराम पूर्ण ब्रह्मा अक्षरेड्य आप्तकाम अक्षरेड्य आप्तकाम सूक्ष्म स्थूल कृता नियम अक्षरेड्य आप्तकाम सूक्ष्म स्थूल कृता नियम लक्ष्मीनारायण सुगम लक्ष्मणाग्रज जायते नमः पूर्ण ब्रह्मा पुरुषोत्तम पुण्यनाम सीताराम पूर्ण ब्रह्मा
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः. Together. ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः. अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः. अक्षरब्रह्मयोगः. अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मं किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः. श्रीभगवानुवाच स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरः विसर्गः कर्मसञ्ज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन्मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावम् यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः. तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयम्. In the beginning of the 8th chapter, Arjuna raises 7 questions. What is Brahma? What is Karma? What is Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva, Adhiyajna? And at the time of death, Bhagavan, how can a person remember you? What is the way in which a person at the time of death can remember you? So these were the 7 questions. Bhagavan answers the first 6 questions in just 2 verses, and then the entire chapter goes to answer the 7th question of Arjuna. How to die, how to hold on to Bhagavan and die. So Bhagavan is now explained the why and how of it. What should a person do at the time of death? Why he should hold on to Bhagavan at the time of death? How he should hold on to Bhagavan at the time of death? So these are all the things which are discussed now. So what does Bhagavan say? Arjuna, whatever you see, whether it is Adhibhuta, Adhideva, Adhiyajna, Adhyatma, everything is me alone. In this world, there is nothing other than me. So therefore, the wisest decision of an individual will be to hold on to me at the time of death. Bhagavan, what will happen if I hold on to you at the time of death? Then Bhagavan says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati samadbhavam yati. That person who remembers me at the time of death, he reaches me. He becomes one with me. So then naturally a question comes, Bhagavan, in that case, only at that last time I will remember you. That last moment. That's all what I have to do. Then Bhagavan says, Arjuna, it is not like that. It is not easy to remember me at the time of death, because what is the law? The law is yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam eva eti kaunteya sada tat bhava bhavitah. A person at the last moment, whatever thought he entertains, it is this thought which is going to decide his future birth. And now what is this thought dependent on? Bhagavan says, tat bhava bhavitah. Whatever thought he is engrossed in throughout his life, day after day, year after year, what he has been entertaining, this thought becomes a very strong, deep-rooted vasana in him. It is this deep-rooted vasana which will emerge at the time of death. So at the time of death, do we have a choice to choose thought? At the time of death, we don't have a choice. Whatever samskaras we have gathered throughout our life, these samskaras will project certain thoughts. Only these samskaras will manifest. We cannot choose. So therefore, Arjuna, it is not possible to choose thoughts. So therefore, if you say, last moment I will take Bhagavan's name and die, impossible. So then what should I do to ensure that my last thought is Bhagavan's thought? What should I do? So therefore Bhagavan says, tasmat, therefore. Since this is your goal, what is your goal? To remember me at the time of death. Tasmat, sarveshu kaleshu. There is only one way to ensure that your mind is fixed unto me at the time of death. There is only one way. And what is the way? Constant practice. Make this God thought your deep-rooted samskara. This is the only way. So what has to be done? Throughout our life, this particular thought has to be entertained. Because what is the law? Whatever thought is entertained again and again, time and again, more often that thought becomes the deep-rooted thought in us. In the conscious mind, when you entertain a thought constantly, this thought seeps into the subconscious mind, and finally, if that thought momentum is really strong, it goes even to the unconscious mind. So this is how we have to gain mastery over a thought. What is the way? Keep on repeating it. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara. All the time, sarveshu kaleshu. Not all the time, at all places, in all circumstances, keep me in your mind. Let this thought percolate in the very depths of your personality. So what are we supposed to do? Chant first. So this is the conscious mind. Start with the conscious mind. So when you constantly chant Bhagavan's name, slowly from the conscious mind, it enters into the subconscious mind. When do we experience subconscious mind? We experience subconscious mind in dream. So when you constantly chant Bhagavan's name, if you see some bad dreams, what comes out automatically? This Bhagavan's name comes. If Bhagavan's name is coming automatically, it means that chanting of Bhagavan's name, remembering Bhagavan, that samskara has entered into your subconscious mind. Now, with greater effort, this samskara can go into your unconscious mind also. When suddenly something happens, whatever is there in the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind, it comes out naturally. Whatever has become a deep-rooted habit, whatever has become one with your personality, that we say it is from the unconscious mind. Even in deep sleep, you experience that. The great saint Appaya Dikshitar, the great devotee of Lord Shiva, So one day he wanted to find out what kind of thoughts are there deep rooted within in himself. So he called his devotees, his disciples, and said, see, I'm going to take this medicine. Now, after taking this medicine for few hours, I will go into unconscious state. I'll become unconscious. What you have to do is see what I chant when I am unconscious. So disciples gathered. The Guru took the medicine. He lied down. A few hours after, he woke up. Then he asked his disciple what I was doing when I was unconscious. Then the disciple showed what he was chanting, and it was written, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. To that extent it has gone deep into him. If this kind of samskara we can form in ourselves, then definitely at the time of death also you will find yourself holding on to Bhagavan. If our samskara is we are holding on to the body throughout our life, then at the time of death also where will we hold on to? Not Bhagavan, but on to the body. And they are the ones who suffer at the time of death. Normally, we don't find anyone happy at the time of death. Why? They are miserable because they are holding on to something impermanent, especially the body and the body related things. So they are miserable. But a person who is holding on to Bhagavan, there is nothing to cry or weep, because Bhagavan is there with you even after leaving the physical body. Because that Bhagavan is consciousness. This topic we will discuss later. So what is the instruction given by Bhagavan? Let this one thought, God thought, let it percolate into your personality, and this is possible only when sarveshu kaleshu anusmara, that constant remembrance, this kind of samskara is generated in us. Constant remembrance. Bhagavan, do you mean to say that I should remember you leaving all my duties, give up all the duties, sit in the room and constantly chant? This is what you are saying? Arjuna, no. Anusmara yudhya. You have to fulfill your duties. At the same time, you have to remember Bhagavan also. These two things should simultaneously go. Nobody can sit quiet, constantly chanting Bhagavan's name. Not possible. So whatever duties are there, do it. At the same time, at the back of the mind, with another part of the mind, constantly remember Him. Anusmara and Yudhya. Remembering me, fight. So both should be done. Remembering Bhagavan, one should perform one's duties. If this way it is done, at the time of death, definitely we will be able to remember God. Now a question comes, Bhagavan, yes, I understand that I should remember you. Smaranam has to be done. But Bhagavan, is there a way in which this smaranam can be easy? Can you give some tips regarding how to easily remember you? So then what does Bhagavan say? See the term here, Mai Arpita Mano Buddhihi. This is the way. Mai Arpita Mano Buddhihi Mameva Eshyasi Asamshayam. Arjuna, this is how you should remember me. This is how remembering me becomes easy. So what is the tip given? Mai Arpita Mano Buddhi. Now what does it mean? It means the mind and the intellect, Mano Buddhi, Arpita, offered unto me. If you offer your mind and intellect unto me, Arjuna, very easily you can remember me all time. Now what do you mean? Offering mind and intellect. Now this is something which again and again comes in Bhagavad Gita. Mano Buddhi. Mayyarpita Mano Buddhi. Again and again you will find Bhagavan using these terms in various chapters. Now what does it mean? This faculty of mind, what is it capable of doing? It is capable of loving. Mind loves. What about buddhi, intellect? What is it capable of doing? It values. Mind loves, intellect values. They are two different things. You may love something, but you may not value it. Can I give an example? Junk food. Junk food we all love, but do we value it? No. A person who is addicted to smoking, he loves smoking, but he does not value it. Isn't it? The reverse is also true. You may value something, but you may not love it. For example, if you are sick, medicine is there. You value the medicine, but do you love medicine? Especially medicines which are very bitter, you can't love it. You don't like it, but still you value it because it treats you from disease, isn't it? There are some professors, you may respect him, but you may not love him. Why do you respect him? Because of his knowledge. This professor can be useful in making me pass the exam. So therefore you respect him. But respecting is different from loving. As a person, you can't love that person, like that person. But as far as his knowledge is concerned, I respect him, I value him. So these are the two different things. One is loving, the other is valuing. Now what does Bhagavan say? Arjuna, you must love me, at the same time you must value me, you must revere me. If these two conditions are satisfied, constant remembrance becomes easy. Constant remembrance of God becomes easy if you are able to love Bhagavan and if you are able to value Bhagavan. Anything which you value very much, you cannot forget. Anything which you love very much, you cannot forget. Isn't it? The one whom you love very much, you can't forget. Constant remembrance is natural, effortless. That which you value, again you can't forget. Constant remembrance is natural. Now the next question is, how to love Bhagavan? Arpita manas means what? You have to offer your mind unto Bhagavan. Meaning, you must love Bhagavan. Now the question is, how to develop this love? In Sanskrit, it is called as bhakti. How to develop this bhakti? In fact, this is the most important thing to be done. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, if there is one central message, the message is, love me. Now, loving Bhagavan is actually very, very easy and natural. If only we pay attention to the realities of life. If we pay attention to the realities of life, then you will find loving Bhagavan is very easy. The whole world is designed in such a way that we can have natural, effortless love for Bhagavan. The world is designed in such a way. On one side is this Jivatma with full of limitations, full of imperfections, full of needs, full of wants, full of desires. And on the other side, there is Paramatma who is ready to fulfill these needs and wants. So naturally, when all my needs are fulfilled through my Creator, it is but very easy that I will love my Creator. Yes or no? The newborn baby doesn't know anything about the world, but one thing the newborn baby knows, here is this lady who comes whenever I am suffering the pangs of hunger. Whenever I am in trouble, I cry. When I cry, this lady comes running. So naturally what happens? The baby starts loving its mother. Isn't it? Loving somebody is very easy when you come to know that that somebody is the one who is putting an end to all my sufferings. that somebody is fulfilling all my needs. So this, when I come to know, this connection when I come to know, then what happens? Naturally, I start loving that person. The world is designed in such a way that there is one Bhagavan who is ready to fulfill all our needs, ever ready, ever available, and here we are with full of needs and wants and desires. So isn't it easy to love such a Bhagavan? So if you want to love Bhagavan, these are the 5 points which you have to remember all the time. This is how the scriptures guide us. How to love Bhagavan? First of all, know who is Bhagavan. The more and more you know who is Bhagavan, loving Bhagavan becomes easy. You cannot love a stranger. Even if you are asked to love a stranger, you cannot. You can love only a person whom you know. Isn't it? So in what way should you know Bhagavan? Number 1, Bhagavan is the one who is giving existence to all of us. This is point number 1. I am existing because He has given His existence to me. I by myself do not have independent existence. In fact, what exists is only Bhagavan. I have misunderstood His existence to be my existence. This is the fact. What exists is only God. But His existence has been misunderstood by my existence. This is the fact. So instead, put it in a language of the heart. What is the language of heart? I exist because of Him. He is the one who has given existence to me. This is point number 1. Point number 2, not only that He has given me existence, He is the one who maintains my existence also. Even the existence has to be maintained. Otherwise it will become non-existent. How does Bhagavan maintains me? Just pay attention to what is happening inside the body. That is enough. To exist in this world, you need food, water, shelter, clothing. Who is providing it? Bhagavan alone. When I eat food, who is taking care of all the complicated process inside this body? I am not aware of anything. I only know one thing: to gulp all junk food. Just for taste I eat, and I finish the whole eating within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But after eating, such an amount of complicated process has to go on. Who is taking care of it? I comfortably forget everything after eating. Then Bhagavan's work start inside. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. Bhagavan says, I am that digestive fire, Vaishwanara, who is working day and night to keep that body alive. To keep your body alive, I am working day and night. See that? So Bhagavan is constantly working. 10 minutes your eating is over. To digest that food, 4 to 5 hours are necessary. This food has to be digested. It has to be converted into energy. The waste has to be thrown out. This energy has to be circulated throughout the body. So much of complicated processes are happening. I am comfortably unaware of everything. Isn't it? So who is maintaining this body? Bhagavan Himself. We are like that children, little children. We make everything dirty, and it is mother's responsibility to make us clean and feed us, clothe us. Everything mother's responsibility. I tell you, if there is a greatest proof that God exists, it is the mothers of the world. If you want to see God in human form, you look at a mother. That is enough. An embodiment of love, an embodiment of compassion, embodiment of sacrifice, embodiment of forgiveness. All these virtues, if you want to see in somebody, you look at a mother, that is enough. For her child, she will spend sleepless nights. And the amount of sacrifice, and she will never feel that I have sacrificed so much for my child. And this little stupid fellow, he will never even recognize or be grateful to that mother. Even then, that mother will constantly love her child. It's amazing. So what is the greatest proof that God exists? The greatest proof is He has created mothers, not only in human form, in various forms. My God, nowadays we have such technologies. In the camera they show such videos, how this, buffalo is protecting her kid, fighting against the lions and the hyenas. Can you imagine that love? An ordinary buffalo is fighting a lion. From where did that mother buffalo get that strength from? If you want to see God in any form, you can see it very clearly in a mother. Amazing. Hats off. So now you have to imagine all these things. When we eat food, who is taking care of the whole thing? There is an intelligent principle taking care of it. I am not thankful to that intelligent principle, but even then, whether I am grateful or not, that intelligent principle is constantly working in me to maintain me. Just pay attention to it. Just be grateful to that intelligent principle. The greatest fools in this world are the atheists who don't believe in all this. So point number 1, I exist because He has given me the existence. Point number 2, not only that He has given me existence, He also maintains me. He is the one who is taking care of me. He is the one who is maintaining me. Point number 2. Point number 3, He is always near to me. He is nearer than anything else in this world. He is very, very near to me. Point number 3. How near is He? The scripture says He is the very I in you, the self in you, the very consciousness in you. How near is this consciousness? Even to use the word near is wrong. It is you. It is your own higher nature. So who is God? God is my own higher nature. So therefore God is nearer than even the very life breath in me. Point number 3, God is very, very near to you. Point number 4, God is ever available to you. Just like a mother is ever available for that newborn baby, in the same way Bhagavan is ever available to us. What is the proof? Whenever you are in trouble, turn to Him. Result will be immediate. Solution will be immediate. You will get the remedy instantly. That itself shows He is ever available. Isn't it? God is ever available. This is point number forgot 4. God is ever available to us. Now these are the things which again and again you should remember. God is ever available to us. Whatever be the problem, turn to Him and He will get you the solution. There's a beautiful verse in Mukundamala, where it is said, for anything you turn to God, He will find the solution for you. For any problem, there is a one-stop solution, and that is God. There's a beautiful verse which says, Vatsalyada bhaya pradana samayat artarti nirvapanat audaryat aghashoshanad aganita shreyaf padav प्रापणात् सेव्यश्रीपतिरेक एव सततं सन्त्यत्र षट्साक्षिणः प्रह्लादश्च विभीषणश्च करिराट् पाञ्चाल्यहल्या ध्रुवः. Beautiful verse. It says, there are 6 witnesses in this world to prove that Bhagavan alone need to be remembered. Who are the 6 witnesses? Prahlada, Vibhishana, Gajendra, Panchali, Ahalya and Dhruva. Prahlada, what did he get? Vatsalyat. He missed love from Hiranyakashipu, his father, but he got it from Bhagavan. What is it that you can't get from God? You can get everything. That's what the verse proves. Do you want love from Bhagavan? Look at Prahlada. He missed it from his worldly father. He got it from his divine father. Vatsalyat abhayapradana samayat. If you want to take refuge, here is Bhagavan who will protect anyone who surrenders unto him. Who is the best example? Vibhishana. Ravana was the ruler of the 3 worlds. But Vibhishana surrendered unto Bhagavan, and Bhagavan protected him and finally made him the king of Lanka. So best example, Vibhishana. Artarti nirvapanat. When you are in affliction, in pain, in sorrow, in misery, turn to Bhagavan and he will put an end to all your misery. Who is the best example? Karirat, Gajendra. I hope you know all these stories. And then Audaryat, Bhagavan goes out of the way to protect his devotees. He is ready to even break the laws of nature to protect his devotees. Who is the example? Panchali, Draupadi. When that evil assembly, when that Dushasana tried to disrobe her, Bhagavan took a new avatar. An avatar which was till then unheard of. What is that avatar? Vastravatar. Something unimaginable and something impossible. Bhagavan goes out of the way to protect his disciples, to protect his devotees. Aghashoshanat, whatever sins you have committed, here is Bhagavan who is ready to forgive you. Here is Bhagavan who is ready to wash away all your sins. What is the best example? Ahalya. Whatever desires you have for material prosperity, you turn to him and he will give you everything. Material prosperity, who is the best example? Dhruva. Bhagavan created a new state which was never till then ruled by anyone. They say the Dhruva Nakshatra. So, what is it that you desire which Bhagavan cannot fulfill? So therefore turn towards him alone. The point is this: he is ever available for everything. Are you depressed? Turn towards him. He will energize you. He will inspire you. Are you confused? Turn towards him. He will give clarity with respect to thinking. Are you totally discouraged? Turn to him. He will encourage you. Are you struggling because of some monetary loss? Turn to him. He will make you materially prosperous. Are you feeling lonely? Turn to him. He will give you company. What is it that Bhagavan cannot give? Are you facing some challenge? He will strengthen you. He will give you courage to face the problem. Everything comes from him. And the best part is, he is ever available. So this is point number 4. What is point number 1, by the way? He is the one who is giving us existence. He is the one who is maintaining our existence. He is the one who is nearest to us. He is the one who is ever available. 5th one, he is the one who is ever concerned for our welfare and well-being. He is not only our wish fulfiller, He is also our well-wisher. Point number 5, He is concerned. Just like a mother is ever concerned for the child. Child is not concerned. He is busy playing. But the mother is concerned. Her attention is always upon her child. Isn't it? In the same way, Bhagavan's attention is always upon us. Whether we pay attention to Bhagavan or not, His attention is always upon us. As Saint Augustine has beautifully said, Bhagavan loves us as though we are the only child of the Lord. How much love the parent have when they have only one child? Heart and soul, they love that child. When 2-3 children are there, their love gets divided. But when only one child is there then, in the same way, Bhagavan loves each and every one of us as though we are His only child. So point number 5, He is ever concerned about our welfare and well-being. To love such a Bhagavan, is it difficult? If we are not able to love Bhagavan, there is some problem with us. Isn't it? Bhagavan says, Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. I am the father and mother of this universe. Then he also adds, Pitamaha. I am also the grandfather. These grandchildren are most pampered, not by the parents, but by the grandparents. Somehow this grandparent-grandchildren chemistry works very well everywhere. Isn't it? Small children are spoiled to the extreme by whom? By grandparents. Bhagavan says, I am that grandparent also. I give everything to my devotee. I am the father, I am the mother, I am also the grandfather. So if you remember these 5 things, again and again, Bhagavan, you are the one who has given me existence. Bhagavan, you are the one who is constantly maintaining me. Bhagavan, you are always available for me. Bhagavan, you are the nearest to me. And Bhagavan, you are always concerned about my welfare and well-being. If this you constantly remember, you will find the love for God increasing. Right. Where do we make the mistake? If there is such a loving, compassionate Bhagavan, why there is so much of suffering in this world? This is one question which normally people ask. If there is such a Bhagavan who loves us so much, then there are cruel ways in which people die and suffer. Where is He then? Does He not have eyes to see? Is His heart made of stone? Does His heart not melt in compassion by seeing the suffering humanity? So then the answer given is, remember the 6th point also. What is the 6th point? Bhagavan is helpless if we don't allow Him entry into our life. This point also has to be remembered very clearly. Bhagavan wants to help us. He is ever concerned for our welfare, but if we don't allow entry to Him into our life, He becomes absolutely helpless. It is exactly like the person who is suffering inside, but he has closed the door. He is not allowing anybody inside. Then the other person who is standing outside, he wants to help, but the door is closed. What can he do? The example given in the scriptures are that of the sunlight. You are sitting in the dark room. The sunlight is waiting outside. But what have you done? The windows are closed, the doors are closed. How will it enter? Poor sunlight can wait outside. It can only wait. It can't barge into your room, isn't it? So if the light has to enter the room, who has to do what? The person who is sitting inside has to open the doors and windows. You can't blame the sun. Oh sun, you are so cruel, you are so partial. Look, you are there and still I am suffering in darkness. How can you blame the sun? Isn't it? So this is one thing which we have to do. What is it? Surrender unto God. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, if there is one instruction by Bhagavan, it is surrender unto me. Sharanagati. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo moksheshyami ma shuchaha. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Machitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. Constantly, what is the message? Surrender unto me, surrender unto me, surrender. Surrender unto me means what? Allow me to take charge of your life. You are unintelligent, you are a stupid, foolish fellow, you don't know about life, you don't know about yourself also. Let me guide you, follow me. There's a beautiful quote in Bible. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness. Beautiful line. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness. So this is the only request from Bhagavan. Surrender unto me. Let me take charge of your life. But what do? Most of us never turn to Him. And this is the reason why there is so much of suffering in the world. We never turn to Him. We turn to our muscle power, we turn to our money power, we turn to our manpower, but we never turn to Bhagavan's power. And Bhagavan is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He is ready, He is capable of doing everything, but we never turn to Him. And that is why there is so much of suffering in this world. Who is that person recently who died? Cafe Coffee Day honor. What's his name? Siddharth. Yes, recently his body was found, I think in that Hoige Bazaar or somewhere. Just imagine. He had crores and crores, I think 1,000 crores or something he had. Very famous. Everything was there. Why did he commit suicide? He committed suicide because he did not know that there was a wonderful option to put an end to all his miseries. And what was that wonderful option? Turning towards Bhagavan. How will you know that such a wonderful option is there unless you attend satsang? Without studying the scriptures, how will you know? When he thought that he is not able to solve his problem, I don't know what his problems are. When he thought that all the doors are closed, he just put an end to his life. Actually, there was one door which was open. He did not try it. Why he did not try it? He did not know that such a door was there. And what was that door? Surrendering unto Bhagavan. Taking our problems to Bhagavan. In fact, he is waiting. Bhagavan is ever waiting to solve our problem, to guide us, to protect us. Siddharth case is just one. Just imagine how many people are committing suicide every day. I think every minute somebody or the other is committing suicide everywhere. Just imagine, committing suicide is not a joke. Everyone wants to live. If that person is trying to put an end to his life, just imagine the amount of sorrow, the intensity of sorrow which that person must have experienced before taking this drastic step. We are indeed blessed that we are studying such scriptures which has solution for all problems. We should indeed pity those people who are not exposed to such knowledge. Unless we study the scriptures, we will never know that there is a permanent solution to all problems. We will never know. Thank God we are exposed to the scriptures, we are exposed to the teachings of the Mahatmas. Indeed, we must have done something great punya, because of which we have faith and because of which we are practicing these scriptural teachings. Otherwise, living in this world is very, very miserable and painful. Anyway, that Bhagavan himself is going to say in this very same chapter, this birth is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. We will see that at that time. This world is dukkhalayam. If at all there can be some peace, some solace, it is only when we turn to Bhagavan. Our greatest mistake is we knock all the doors except the door leading to Bhagavan. This is our mistake, and that is why the world is full of sorrow. There's a beautiful verse again in Mukunda Mala which says, Nathenah purushottame trijagatam ekadhipe cetasa sevye swasya padasya datari sure narayane tishthate yam kanchit purushadhamam katipaya grameshamalparthadam sevaye mrigayamahe naramaho mudhavarakavayam. Another beautiful verse from Mukunda Mala, where the poet Kulashekara says, what a tragedy! On one side is Nathe, the Lord of the universe, Purushottame, the Supreme Being, Trijagatam Ekadhipe, the Lord of the three worlds. On one side is this Bhagavan. And what is his nature? Sevye swasya padasya datari, the one who is ready to give himself to those who surrender unto him. Such great Bhagavan is on one side. And then what do we do? There is some corrupt politician who is the head of some village. He has some little power, and what do? We crave to serve this corrupt politician in order to fulfill our demands, our needs, turning a deaf ear to Bhagavan. Such mudha varakavayam, such stupid, wretched fools we are. There is this Bhagavan who is ready to give himself, ever waiting. We don't turn towards him at all. And we are ready to serve all these worldly people who have some influence, some power. We are ever ready to serve his feet. Such foolish people we are. So this is the mistake. What is the mistake? We don't turn to him, and therefore we suffer. To the extent we delay in turning to him, to that extent we will only suffer. What happens when we turn to him? You get the best answer for your problems. When the child has any problem, where should the child turn to? Mother, father, where else? Because the child will get the best answer, best solution from whom? From the mother and father. In the same way, Bhagavan is our mother and father, so therefore it's our birthright to turn towards him. And then what you will find? You will get the best solution. What happens when you get the best solution? Your faith in God increases, your love for God increases, your trust increases, your devotion increases, your surrender increases, your relationship with Bhagavan increases, and then Anusmaranam becomes very, very, very easy. There is somebody who is taking care of me. There is somebody who is always with me. I don't have to turn towards anyone. I just have to turn towards him. He will provide whatever I need. When such a kind of strong faith has come into your heart, then where will you turn? Is it difficult to remember such a Bhagavan? Yes, the mistake we do is sometimes we do turn to Bhagavan, but once the problem is solved, we comfortably forget. This is another problem. First problem is we don't turn to Bhagavan. Second problem is even when we turn to Bhagavan, when everything is over, when all the calamities and tragedies are over, when you are through it, then you comfortably forget it. Isn't it? This is another mistake. We have to be very, very alert that we don't commit this mistake. No problem, you turn to Bhagavan, He will definitely solve your problem. But when the problems are solved, what is our responsibility, our duty? We must thank Him. We must be grateful to Him. There is a beautiful verse in Bhagavatam where Kunti Mata is praying to Krishna. So this happens when Ashwathama releases that Brahmastra to kill the baby in the womb of Uttara, Parikshit. So then Bhagavan protects that baby. Parikshit is protected by Bhagavan. At that time, in Kunti Stuti, there is a beautiful verse where Kunti Mata is saying, Vishan Mahagnev Purushada Darshanat असत्सभाया वनवासकृच्छ्रतः मृधे मृधेनेकमहारथास्त्रतः द्रौण्यस्त्रतश्चास्म हरेभिरक्षिताः. Bhagavan, whenever we were in trouble, you are the only one who has helped us. And then Kunti Mata is listing what all were the problems and how Bhagavan saved them. Vishan. So when Bhima was poisoned, it was Bhagavan who protected Bhima. Maha-Agnehe. When Pandavas were, the Kauravas tried to burn the entire Pandavas in that Lakshagriha. At that time also, it was Bhagavan who protected them. Purushada Darshana, there were so many man-eaters, Hidambi, etc. Bhagavan, you saved us from them also. Asat Sabhaya, from evil assembly also, you protected us. Which is that evil assembly? The Draupadi episode. Bhagavan, again you protected us. Vanavasa Kritchataha, in Vanavasa also, how many problems we faced, especially that Durvasa episode. He comes with 10,000 disciples and etc. And they did not have any food. In Vanavasa also, how many problems, and every time you came to help us. Mridhe, in the war also. Aneka Maharatha Astrataha. So many arrows were shot against my son. There were such arrows that it had no, equivalent. Such missiles were shot against my son, but Bhagavan, you saved my children all the time. And therefore Kunti Mata's very famous prayer is Vipadas santu nashashvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhava darshanam. Therefore Bhagavan, now I have understood the technique. Now go on giving me more and more problems. This is the prayer of Kunti. What is the prayer? Her prayer is not, Bhagavan, don't give us any problem. No. Give more and more problems to us, because Bhagavan, whenever you give us problem, naturally we tend to turn towards you. And when we turn towards you, we find your presence in our heart. And every problem has only become an opportunity to strengthen our relationship. So therefore, it has always come as a blessing in disguise. So Bhagavan, give us more and more problems. This is the prayer of Kunti. What are we discussing now? Arpita Manas. That's all. Right. How to develop devotion for God. So when through such intelligent living, when we are constantly in touch with Bhagavan, what happens? Slowly, this love for Bhagavan becomes very, very strong. And when this love for Bhagavan becomes very strong, remembering Bhagavan becomes very, very easy. Whatever you love, concentration becomes natural and effortless. Whomever you love, thinking of him or her becomes easy. It is effortless. Here also it is the same law. Mai arpita mano buddhihi. Now this is the second aspect. What is it? Buddhi also should be in me. Not only that you should love me, you should value me also. As far as this is concerned, Bhagavan himself is going to give a verse how to fix buddhi unto Bhagavan. Verse number 9, we will see that later. So what has to be understood? You have to understand that Bhagavan is the very sum and substance of the whole creation. He is the very essence. He is the ultimate reality. So this, when we understand, buddhi will have no more questions. Intellect is convinced that yes, this Bhagavan alone should be meditated upon. You start valuing Bhagavan because Bhagavan alone exists. So then what happens? The mind and the intellect becomes riveted in Bhagavan. When the devotion becomes very, very strong, what happens is you start identifying yourself not with any of the roles in life. You start identifying yourself as devotee of Bhagavan. This is what happens. When love relationship with Bhagavan becomes very intense, how do you see yourself? You see yourself as devotee. This becomes the primary relationship. This becomes the primary role in life. So I am a devotee who is a husband. I am a devotee who is a wife. I am a devotee who is an officer, employer, employee. So what is the primary role? Devotee role. All the other roles become secondary. Primary role is the devotee role because my primary relationship is with God. So naturally, when I do anything in life, for whom I will do? I will do for that person whom I love. So all action become an expression of my life, of my love unto Bhagavan. So anusmara yudhyacha means what? I am a devotee. I will do only that thing which my Bhagavan likes. So the fulfillment of my duties and responsibility becomes an offering of my love unto Bhagavan. Are you able to understand? I am a devotee. My job is to please my beloved, my Bhagavan. So whatever I do, it is a worship unto him. So at the back of the mind, this relationship is there, and in the forefront, in the world, you are performing your duties. See? So duties are also done. At the same time, the relationship is also maintained. This is the meaning, anusmara yudhya cha. Whatever you do it for me. Whatever you do it to please me. This is what Bhagavan says. In this way, if you live, Arjuna, definitely at the time of death, Mam eva eshyasi, you will reach me alone. Because your entire life is devoted to me. All your actions are devoted to me. Your central, focus is me alone. In this way, when you live, at the time of death, where will your mind be? It will be in me alone. Asamshayam, no doubt about it. So Bhagavan, so what are the factors which I should keep in mind to ensure that the mind is riveted in you? What are the factors? Next verse. Verse number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena Cetasa nanya-gamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan. Yes, such a person, paramam purusham divyam yati, he attains to that paramam purusham, that supreme being, that divine being, divyam purusham. Such a person will reach that Bhagavan. Who? The one who has such a mind, cetasa. What kind of mind? So 3 aspects are mentioned here. Abhyasa yoga yuktena, cetasa na anyagamina, anuchintayan. 3 terms are used. Now these are the aspects which we must pay attention to. Abhyasa yoga yuktena, cetasa nanyagamina, and anuchintayan. So first let us take anuchintayan. So what kind of mind we must possess? What should we do with our mind? At the time of death, mind has to remain with God. So therefore we have to culture the mind. We have to train the mind. What are the aspects with which we have to train? What are the aspects we have to keep in mind while training the mind? So the first term, anuchintayan. What do you mean anuchintayan? Chintayan means thinking. Now here Bhagavan Shankaracharya gives a beautiful commentary. He says, Shastra Acharya Upadesham Anudhyayan. Shastra Acharya Upadesham Anudhyayan. So what is the first step? The first step is contemplating upon, reflecting upon Upadesham, the advice, the teaching, the instruction. Got from where? Shastra and Acharya. Meditating upon, thinking on, reflecting upon what? The instructions given by the teacher, the Acharya, the instructions given by the scriptures. So that should form the base. So if I have to meditate on God, I must have an understanding about God, who God is, what is His nature. This understanding should be there. From where will you get this understanding? You can't get it from newspaper or internet. This understanding you will get only when you understand the scriptures in the right way. Scriptures can be misunderstood. So directly reading the scriptures will not help. There are many people who distribute Bhagavad Gita as though if you read Bhagavad Gita you will understand everything. Nothing is going to happen. See what Shankaracharya says, an Acharya is necessary to understand the mystic words of the scriptures. If you directly read the translation, you will not understand anything. You can try it. There should be somebody needed to unfold the hidden meanings of these verses. So therefore, Shankaracharya says, Shastra Acharya Upadesham, meaning the Shastra should be studied under the guidance of a teacher. And then you clearly understand the meaning. And these meaning, whatever you have understood, the whatever idea you have gained through this teaching, meditate upon it, reflect upon it. This is the meaning Anuchintayan. Anu means followed by. So it is not directly doing chinta, not direct meditation. First listen to the scriptures through the teachings of Mahatmas, then understand it, then reflect upon it. Anu means followed by. Anuchintayan. This is the first step. Unless I have a clear understanding of who God is, I will not be able to meditate upon that God. After that what? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Do abhyasa yoga. What is abhyasa? Constant practice. Constant practice. What has to be constantly practiced? We have to cultivate these virtues like developing devotion for God, trust in God. All these things have to be cultivated, practiced. This is called as abhyasa. Doing it again and again, whatever you have understood. Practicing it constantly. Sarveshu kaleshu, that part, abhyasa. Let every situation become an opportunity in taking us nearer to God. Converting every situation as an opportunity to develop our love for God. Then that becomes abhyasa. Even a simple eating process can become an opportunity to love God. Just paying attention to your heartbeat can be an opportunity to love God. Yes or no? Every little thing, if you can just see the hidden hand of Bhagavan helping you, guiding you, protecting you, taking care of you. Now this becomes abhyasa. There are so many ways in which life situation can be analyzed. A scientist analyzes the situations in a particular way, but a devotee analyzes the situation in a totally different way. The same sun is seen by a scientist and a devotee. What will the scientist say when he sees a sun? It is nothing but lot of gases. The gases are burning. And these are the gases. This will be the conclusion of a scientist after seeing the sun. What about a devotee? He will say, Bhagavan himself has come. Look at that sun, burning itself constantly for the welfare of all. This is how a karma yogi should be. 4th chapter starts like this. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. 4th chapter says, Bhagavan says, this knowledge I gave to sun god first. And look at that sun god. So these are the things which a devotee will remember. Look at the way the sun is burning itself for the welfare of all. What a selfless life he is leading. Isn't it? So in that sun also, what does he think of? He thinks of Bhagavan. He sees the glory of Bhagavan. My God, so many lakhs of kilometers. I think so many crores of kilometers it is away, and still it is able to give so much of light. What does he see there? He doesn't see the gases there. He sees the glory of Bhagavan there. Isn't it? See the way in which a scientist thinks. See the way in which a devotee thinks. Now this is called as abhyasa. Every situation in life should be connected to God. Should remind us of God. Should remind us of His love, of His mercy. Then that becomes abhyasa yoga. This has to be trained. How long? Till it becomes effortless. Till in every being we see Bhagavan. Till in every situation we see Bhagavan. Till in every happening we see Bhagavan. Till then this abhyasa should continue. You have to consciously practice it. Otherwise it won't come. When you look into the world, what are you seeing? When you close your eyes and look within, what are you seeing? Are you seeing the glory of God outside and inside? Then wonderful, your abhyasa has reached the very pinnacle of perfection. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. So this is the second step. What is the third one? Chetasa na anyagamina. This is the third point to be kept in mind. Let not chetasa, the mind, let it not become anyagamin. Anyagamin means what? Something which goes in other places. Let not your mind go to any other place other than God. Na anyagamina. Mind should go only and only to God. Whatever experience you have, you should think only and only of God. You should be attached to God and God alone. Chetasa na anyagamina. In the language of Vedanta, it is called as vairagya, dispassion. This aspect we will see in more detail tomorrow. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।